Terron Dewar, welcome to Profile.
Thank you.
All right, so at just 34 years of age, you've already established a stellar record so far, and you're continuing to do that. Policy analyst and marketer and owner of Campus Coach. We're going to talk a little bit about that business. Already a Bachelor of Science, Master of Science degrees, more than one, from the University of the West Indies, as well as Digital Marketing Institute, Google Certified Digital Marketer, twice president of the University of the West Indies Mona Guild of Students, and winning the highest ever award that the university offers to any student. Also been a tutor and adjunct lecturer. You're now the head of Sagicor Live's digital revenue channel, not just in Jamaica, but in the Cayman Islands and Costa Rica. You've been busy.
I try. I try to keep myself busy.
Where does that, it sounds like a lot to me. How does it sound to you?
It is a lot.
When you listen to all of it.
It is a lot. I mean, I've actually never heard it said in that package before, but it is a lot. But I mean, it's something that I try to do, and I try to do my best at it. You know.
Where does that come from, that sort of drive to get so much done?
I think it's my upbringing. You know. My upbringing, I grew up in Westmoreland with not a lot. You know, but I had good mentors, and I could see people trying to get things done, and I just assimilated that behavior, and I just invested my all in everything I tried to get done. When
you say, so grew up in Westmoreland, let's talk about growing up and the background that you're talking about.
Yeah, so I grew up largely between my grandmother's house and my father's house. I mean, I had my life was fairly stable until I was about in grade 2. My mother's house burnt down, and then she migrated. I spent time between my grandmother and my father. My father is a Rastaman that sells craft on the beach in Negril. So my brother and I would go on the beach, set up the station, engage the tourists, and try to get them to make a purchase of the beads or the craft that he sells.
How young were you doing this?
I've been doing that from as young as I remember, from grade 2 until I ended sixth form. So when most kids would go to get summer school, I'd travel in the summer. I worked on the beach talking to tourists and telling them about the value proposition of the craft and beads that we're selling.
So where were you learning the value proposition? What was your father saying to you?
A lot of it, in the initial stages, we were there with our father. So we saw him do it. But after a while, I mean, my brother and I were sent to do it ourselves. So we went to school, everybody else 5 days a week. And on the weekends, we would run the business ourselves. So we would ride his bicycle and we'd go on the beach and we'd pull out the things and set them up. And then we engage the tourists. And we tell them about the beads and we tell them about the price. And sometimes they come and they want something to be custom made and we'd make it. But I learned something very critical from that. So in that business, you kill what you eat. So if you go and you set up the place and you happen to make a sale, then you can buy lunch. My father would tell us, any money you make, you buy lunch from it. But if you don't make a sale, you know you're going without lunch for that day.
That was the background with your father. What kind of relationship with your mother? She was
I had
abroad.
An excellent relationship with my mother. So, as I said, my mother's house burnt down when I was in grade 2. And at that point in time, I probably changed 3 primary schools in quick succession. She had an opportunity to migrate, and she took very good care of us from the proceeds of migrating. So I didn't see my mother in person, because she migrated when I was in grade 3. I didn't see her in person until I was in lower 6 at Mannings. But she raised us over the phone and through barrels. At that time, I spent most of the time at my grandmother in Burn Savannah. And I mean, so I had a diverse upbringing. I saw a lot, growing up. And I just assimilated all the things that came with that, put it in one package, and that is what drives me today.
So your father is teaching you business by you actually doing it, and your mother, you're saying, is doing this over the phone. What's she saying to you?
No, man, she's just ensuring that we're listening to what my grandmother is saying, because I spent a lot of the time living with my grandmother as well. I mean, growing up in the church, doing all these things. I got core principles from my grandmother, because I grew up in a household where she raised a lot of grandkids. She's raising us over the phone, ensuring that we listen to our grandmother. Our grandmother is instilling the principles in us. So we got the principles. I was blessed enough to get the principles of life from my grandmother, and then the business exposure and a little bit of the world with my father, because he wasn't as strict as to where we went and that sort of thing. So I got to see things, but I got the principle from my grandmother because I had to go to school, come home, go to church, vacation Bible school. So I got the best of both worlds. growing up that way.
So from that now into the schooling, let's talk a little bit about the schooling, because talk about going to multiple primary schools, but also landing at Manning's High School, and you're one of those students as well. You did a lot of different things.
Yes, a lot of things at Manning's. I had a wonderful time at Manning's. Lots of friends. I played football, volleyball, track and field, and I did fairly well at school. I mean, by the time I graduated, sixth form, before I went to UA, I had probably 12 CXU subjects and 8 CAPE units, which was a lot. You
started to do them very early as well?
Yeah, I started to do them very early. My uncle David, actually, and my uncle Paul, I think they were both upgrading their skills at the time, so they started to do CXU subjects. And I saw my uncle David did principles of business and I think principles of administration while I was in third form. And I said, if my uncle can do that, then I can do it. So I did it in third form and I passed those 2. So by the time I was finishing fifth form, I had 12 subjects, So, I mean, as I said, I had a lot of good mentors,
So you have all of these subjects and you decide now that the next path is the University of the West Indies.
Yeah.
But why the degree that you ended up doing?
Actually, I wanted to do law, to be very honest. I just couldn't afford it. I got through to do law, and when I saw the school fee, I was like, couldn't do that. And I mean, based on my background, I had to take a student loan. So the next best thing was to do government, because I thought at the point in time I had this burning desire to be a politician. I probably thought that was a prerequisite to be a politician. So I did government, and I did very well in that space. I financed the first degree using a student loan that was guaranteed by my uncles, Uncle Paul and Uncle David. And I think they set the foundation for a lot of what I do in terms of that guarantee, because everybody who is after me in my family, once they go in and they need a student loan, I guarantee everybody. So I lived in Taylor Hall for most of my formative years, and I did a lot of things. I was sports representative. I became games committee chairman of the Guild. I was known for being principled and fair, So I think that is a reputation that has followed me. I get things done, and people know that. So I did a lot of things. I was on the Guild multiple years, and I had the pleasure of serving as president twice, which taught me so much. I mean, I use those principles to this day in my life. And I learned things at that time that I can't pay for those lessons.
I want to talk a little bit about those lessons, but we have to go to the break now on Profile. My guest is policy analyst, marketer, and he's the owner of Campus Cuts, Terron Dewar. He's also a leader at Sagicor Life Jamaica. And we're back with you on the other side of these messages.